Just trying to come to grasp with the situation every time I look at my brother's face and I see how shook up he is, and you look at the blood and all the filming and footage and pictures and whatnot. The same thing just happens over and over again. Cannot believe that this actually happened here in Alberta.
So I arrived at the family farm of Jeremia. It's a rather large operation with over a dozen siblings, all working for the good of the family, sometimes working 24 hours a day to make sure that this farming operation ticks. They were gracious enough to take a few hours out of their day to speak with me about what it was like to be sort of this insular Catholic family, a large family who minds their own business, not much business outside of the bounds of their property. What it was like to have them see their 18-year-old brother and son be violently arrested by sheriffs. Those sheriffs came from Calgary to this area, this very remote rural area, to run a check stop using the newly passed law that allows law enforcement to arbitrarily demand breathalyzers. And if they don't submit to this arbitrary draconian law that violates their charter rights, well, they're going to arrest you. These sheriffs thought that the proportional response to an 18-year-old who didn't understand what a breathalyzer was to pull him out of a tractor by his neck, slam him on the ground, causing him a bloody nose, bruising him, and traumatizing the kid. I spoke with the family.
So I started the GoFundMe Sunday afternoon. One of my first purposes would be to help Dominic and Jeremiah out with lawyer fees, because they're obviously going to have to appear in court, and they don't have a lot of money. They're helping out with the family farm business, and they don't get a wage like lots of other people do. And I also started it to bring awareness that we're losing our freedom and rights in our country, and also to bring awareness that what the sheriffs did and how they handled the situation was very disrespectful to a good citizen, a hardworking young farm boy, and very unprofessional.
So I wasn't on scene. I was away working at another job. Very busy time of year. This is probably the worst year in over 18 years, or it is, in Alberta farming history for farmers. Very difficult time, very stressful. When I heard about it, I came back to home immediately to see what I could do and how I could help out. And I was just shocked, and since then I've been just continually more and more shocked, especially as footage rolls in from bystanders and people that filmed it and are supporting and trying to help out and so on, and also in shock. And that's just been escalating more and more. Why did this happen? And what can we do to prevent stuff like this happening in the future? And just trying to come to grasp with the situation every time I look at my brother's face and I see how shook up he is, and you look at the blood and all the filming and footage and pictures and whatnot. The same thing just happens over and over again. Cannot believe that this actually happened here in Alberta.
Jeremiah had previously been in the field with me, and he had finished his job baling, so I had sent him off to the next field to go raking. We were really pressed to get 300 acres raked that night, because the rake was needed at home to do another 40 acres in the morning or in the afternoon. And then later on, I get a phone call that Jeremiah has been arrested.
Oh my God.
And I was just completely, ticked off, because this is the first chance we've had to get anything done, and then this happens.
He was leaving one field and heading into another, and there happened to be a check stop going on. There was about 10 vehicles ahead of him in the lineup. And he didn't know what was going on, but he knew he had to get into that field. He had been already working really long hours that day. So he thought the field's right there. It's standard practice for farmers to drive through the ditch to get into their fields. Often there's not even proper approaches. So he drove into the ditch to get around the check stop, and at that point, the sheriffs came at him from all directions, so to speak, as can be seen in the footage. He drove back onto the highway and stopped to see what they wanted. And that's when they came into the tractor, opened the door and came in and told him he had to take a breathalyzer, and he wanted to know what that was. He's homeschooled his entire life. He's never been off the family farm a whole lot. So he wanted to know why he had to do that and what that was all about. And rather than answer his questions, 5 different sheriffs started trying to pull him out of the tractor, and they beat him inside the tractor. He started bleeding. They hit him in the nose, the back of the head, the neck. As can be seen in the footage, they finally succeeded in pulling him out, and he fell down on the pavement, and they pounced on him and threw him inside of a police car, where he was left for 2 hours, no air conditioning, and very shook up and traumatized, and kept repeatedly asking to call home and call his family and so on. A very regrettable incident, and from there the sheriffs had asked that someone come pick up the tractor. So my other brother Dominic had showed up at this point in time to pick up the tractor, and that is when they decided that they weren't going to release the tractor anymore, when Dominic was in the middle of trying to get it, and they decided to impound it.
I got there and I seen the tractor was already on a deck. So by that point I kind of lost it, and I told the towing trucking company to, get the tractor off the deck, get out of the cab, and I'm taking this tractor and bringing it to the field where it was previously supposed to go. The sheriffs kind of blocked me to get in the door, but they kind of backed off a little bit, and I was about to start to move the tractor down, but I had realized that the damage to the transmission had already been done, so I wasn't able to select a range in order to back it out. And then maybe a few minutes later, the RCMP showed up at the scene, and one of them climbed up on one side and another one climbed up in the other door side, and he told me that I have to get out of the tractor. And I asked him why, and he said this tractor's being impounded, it's the law and so forth. And I said, no, I don't want to get out of this tractor. I want to take it to the field and, finish the job that it was going to do. And then he told me, you're under arrest. And I said, you can't arrest me. And he said, you're under arrest. And he's like, if you don't comply, I'm going to taser you. They took me from the tractor, handcuffed me, put me in the back of a car, asked me a few questions and so forth, and then took my handcuffs off and released me.
The sheriffs arrested Jeremiah, and the RCMP arrested Dominic. Dominic was arrested and charged with mischief, obstruction of justice, I believe, and resisting arrest. Those charges on Dominic's side have since been dropped from criminal to a lesser charge, and most likely will get thrown out. The RCMP, after a day or two later, when they became aware better of the situation, what had all been going on, they were more understanding. They realized what's going on, and they even admitted that that's not how they would have handled the situation at all. They probably would have just let the tractor go and get to work and so on. But in the heat of the moment, he was arrested as well and charged with those criminal charges.
And the criminal charges against Jeremiah, do you remember what they are?
The criminal charges against Jeremiah: refusing to produce a breathalyzer test, obstruction of justice, and resisting arrest, I believe, as well.
And he was resisting arrest while he was being pulled from two sides of a tractor, never knowing what a breathalyzer was.
That's exactly what happened, as unbelievable as it sounds. Especially on Jeremiah's point, he's completely shocked. He had no idea that something as simple as that could lay you a criminal charge. Since then, we've done some research, and we've noticed that there's a number of legal battles happening even now in Canada to do with this very law that is not only unconstitutional, but it violates our Charter of Rights and Freedoms here in Canada, specifically, I think, Article 8. So that's a whole nother story in itself, but definitely very scary when they can pull anyone they want over at any point in time and force you to take a breathalyzer.
Now, it doesn't get much more salt of the earth and Albertan than this family that I had a pleasure of speaking with here today. After we were done with all this reporting business, they actually showed me around their property, showing me this beautiful pond that their Opa had made, and as well as the gardens that each of the siblings have. They sort of compete within the family of who can have a better garden. It stuns me that they found themselves in this situation because of the law enforcement that our province has. We don't have law enforcement that is designed to take care and protect the people in rural Alberta. The sheriffs don't know what they're doing. They're from Calgary or they're from Edmonton, tasked with making sure that courts run properly, not making sure that rural Albertans are safe and secure. RCMP, well, they're no better. The RCMP arrived on location after the fact and arrested a second brother. The RCMP report to Justin Trudeau directly through his hand-picked RCMP Commissioner, Brenda Lucki. They're not out here to support Albertans and to protect Albertans. They're here to protect Justin Trudeau and his status quo. But Doug Schweitzer, the Minister of Justice and Attorney General here in Alberta, bears some responsibility for what happened here today. Could Doug Schweitzer maybe, just maybe, treat salt-of-the-earth, hard-working Albertans like Jeremiah, who was pulled out of a tractor by sheriffs enforcing draconian Trudeau laws? Could he maybe treat them half as nicely as he treated the eco-extremists who invaded and stole turkeys from a peaceful Hutterite farm? Last I checked, only one person actually ended up serving any sort of term, and it was community service, which I'm sure was going to be served at some vegan animal rights front. The over dozen of the folks who were breaking in illegally at that turkey farm, well, they faced no consequences at all. But Doug Schweitzer is making sure that folks like Jeremiah are paying the piper. And this family, who now has a damaged tractor that has lost farm income from their hay, which ended up getting rained on after that tractor was out of commission, losing over $100,000, they say. Doug Schweitzer needs to answer for that. In the meantime, I think that we should be helping out this family however we can, especially with the legal bills. We've set up a website, helpjeremiah.com, where you can go, you can check it out, the whole story, and there's a link right there so that you can go to their GoFundMe and help pay their legal bills. They're going to stack up quickly, but they have great legal counsel. They actually have the same lawyer that was on the case in Okotoks when a farmer was defending his family and property from invaders who ended up shooting off his gun. This same lawyer actually got him off the hook, even though the government wanted to stick it to him as well. If you go to helpjeremiah.com, you can read the full story and pitch into their legal fund. It would go a long ways to help them. For Rebel News, just outside of Sundre, I'm Keean Bexte. Go to helpjeremiah.com, and if you can pitch in a few bucks at their GoFundMe, which is linked right there, that would go a long ways. And if you want to help Rebel News with our coverage of stories just like this, you can go to helprebelnews.com. Throughout the pandemic, we've been trying to sort of readjust our coverage, and I think it's been great so far, but we need your help to do it. We can't do it on our own. If you go to helprebelnews.com, alternatively, you can help us out